Okay, let's just dive right in. Today, we're dissecting the anatomy of a penny stock trade, and we're zeroing in on the compensation disclosure rule. If you're gearing up for that Series 6 exam, listen up, because this is one of those highly testable regulatory rules that you absolutely have to know cold. We're going to break down exactly what this rule demands, exactly when these disclosures have to happen, and how the firm's payout is calculated so it's permanently locked into your brain for test day.
Real quick, this explainer is brought to you by CertFuel. They've got a killer Series 6 course packed with adaptive study quizzes, smart flashcards, and unlimited practice exams that are weighted just like the real deal. You can check all that out at certfuel.com. All right, let's get into the good stuff.
To make this stick, let's bring in our recurring cast of characters. Meet Cora the customer and Rita the rep. So Rita is a Series 6 registered representative. On a normal Tuesday, Rita is just dealing with standard mutual funds. But today, Cora calls her up with a wild idea. Cora doesn't want a boring mutual fund. No, she wants to buy a super speculative, unlisted, over-the-counter stock, let's just call it Galactic Laser Polish, and she wants to buy it for exactly $3 a share. Rita realizes instantly she is not in mutual fund territory anymore. She just crossed over into the highly scrutinized world of penny stocks.
Now, the absolutely critical number you've got to remember here is a single digit, $5. By general definition, a penny stock is an equity security priced below $5 per share that is not listed on a national securities exchange. And since Cora is dead set on buying her totally unlisted stock for just $3, bam, we've officially triggered the penny stock rules.
Let's draw some hard lines here so you don't get tricked. On the left side, we have what is a penny stock, an over-the-counter, or OTC, equity trading under $5. On the right, we have what is not a penny stock. If a stock is traded on a national securities exchange, think the New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ, it is 100% exempt from the penny stock definition, period. What else is totally exempt? Registered investment companies. That means those mutual funds and exchange-traded funds that Rita normally sells are entirely excluded, mostly because they rely on net asset value mechanics or they're already exchange-listed.
Okay, sirens flashing. This is our first major exam trap. Keep your eyes peeled for this one. The test makers love to bait you here. They'll ask something like, hey, if an exchange-listed stock tanks and drops to $4 a share, does it suddenly become a penny stock? The answer is no. No way. Exchange listing alone exempts a security from penny stock treatment, even if its price completely falls off a cliff below that $5 mark. It's the listing status plus the price combination that actually drives the classification.
So why are the rules so aggressive here? Why do regulators sweat it when Cora buys her $3 space polish stock? Well, as the source material puts it, the penny stock market is thin, easily manipulated, and frequently the vehicle for pump and dump schemes. Basically, it's the Wild West. Regulators built the compensation disclosure rule strictly for transparency. It is flat-out unlawful for a broker-dealer to execute a penny stock transaction without telling the customer exactly how much the firm is skimming off the top. They want Cora to see the hidden fees clearly so she can decide if the markup is actually a ripoff before she signs on the dotted line.
To force that transparency, Rita has to stick to a really rigid two-part timeline if she wants to execute Cora's trade legally. Step 1 is the pre-trade disclosure. Before she even thinks about affecting the transaction, Rita must disclose the compensation to Cora. Now, she can do this orally or in writing. The whole point is to give Cora real-time info so she can say, yes, let's do this, or no thanks. Then comes step 2, the confirmation stage disclosure. This one happens at or prior to the time the written confirmation is delivered. And here's the kicker. This step must be in writing, no exceptions. It creates a permanent paper trail for Cora to review and for the firm's files. Both of these steps are absolutely non-negotiable.
All right, let's do a quick active recall check. Pause the explainer for a second. Look at this scenario. Rita gives Cora an oral disclosure pre-trade and then gives her another oral disclosure at the confirmation stage. Is Rita fully compliant? Really think about those two steps we just went over.
And the answer is absolutely not. Here's your next exam trap. The compensation disclosure rule has a mandatory two-part structure, right? Satisfying one half does not satisfy the other. Rita is in violation. Why? Because while an oral disclosure is totally fine for the pre-trade step, that confirmation stage disclosure absolutely has to be in writing. Don't let them flip this on you during the exam. Doing oral only at the end fails the written requirement, and doing written only at the end totally fails the pre-trade requirement. You need both in the correct formats.
Okay, so what exactly is Rita actually disclosing in these two steps? She has to reveal what's called the aggregate amount of compensation her broker-dealer is going to receive. Let's translate that to plain English. How much money is Rita's firm making off of Cora's $3 stock purchase? The rule literally forces the firm to spell out the exact dollar amount they're pocketing.
And the way we calculate that compensation? Well, it depends entirely on how Rita's firm actually handles the trade. Let's look at the left side. If the firm acts as an agency, meaning they're just matching up buyers and sellers, the compensation is simply the remuneration received from the customer. We all know this as a commission. But look at the right side. If the firm acts as a principal, meaning they are actually selling to Cora straight out of their own inventory, the compensation is called a markup.
Let's unpack those principal trades a bit more, because there are two distinct flavors you need to know. First up is the riskless principal trade. This basically means the firm went out and bought the security specifically to fill Cora's order. They had the offsetting side lined up for her already, so they took zero risk. The compensation here is the difference between the price Cora pays and the contemporaneous offsetting purchase or sale price. So what they sold it for minus what they literally just bought it for. Then there's the other principal trade. This is your standard run-of-the-mill trade directly out of the firm's existing inventory. For this one, the compensation is calculated as the difference between the price to Cora and the prevailing market price. In this shady, highly manipulated world of penny stocks, firms charging absurdly huge markups is a massive problem, which is exactly why spelling out these calculations for the customer is so vital.
All right, so Rita successfully disclosed the aggregate compensation to Cora, both orally and in writing, and she executed the trade. Rita's job is done, but the firm's job? Not even close. Enter Sam, the supervisor. Sam works in the back office, and it's his job to make sure the firm preserves all this paperwork so they don't get crushed by broker-dealer record-keeping rules.
So here's your second highly testable digit to just burn into your brain right now. 3. Sam has to ensure the firm preserves a clean record of every single penny stock compensation disclosure for exactly 3 years. And within that, the first 2 years must be kept in a readily accessible location. Now, this 3-year retention tier is super helpful because it perfectly matches the retention rules that apply to your standard order tickets, trade confirmations, and other regular customer communications.
And that brings us perfectly to our final exam trap. Imagine this. Rita did everything perfectly. She nailed the oral pre-trade disclosure. She nailed the written confirmation disclosure. But then, Sam the supervisor accidentally drops the whole file into the shredder after 6 months. Is the firm compliant? Nope. Creating the disclosure but failing to preserve that record for the full 3 years is still a massive regulatory violation. Making the record and keeping the record are two completely separate, independent obligations. Doing one doesn't get you off the hook for the other.
Section Rapid Fire Exam Recap. Let's lock it all in.
Here are your top takeaways to blast through on exam day. 1. A penny stock is an unlisted equity security priced under $5. 2. Being exchange listed is a total exemption even if the price crashes below $5. Registered investment companies, like your standard mutual funds, are also totally exempt. 3. The disclosure rule has a strict 2-part structure. Pre-trade can be oral or written, but that confirmation stage absolutely must be written. 4. Compensation for an agency trade is a commission, but for principal trades, it's a markup. And 5. You have to retain these disclosure records for exactly 3 years, with the first 2 being easily accessible.
I want to leave you with one final thought here. Think about it. If Rita is a Series 6 rep, and Series 6 reps basically only sell exempt mutual funds and variable contracts, why does the exam demand that you know this obscure penny stock rule so perfectly? Well, because in the real world, you might run into dual registered accounts, or you might find yourself doing cross-line referrals to other trading desks. And when that happens, you have to instantly recognize the regulatory trigger the second an unlisted under $5 equity enters the chat. Your license and your firm's compliance literally depend on it. Keep grinding, stay focused, and go crush this exam.